Chosen one. Before you scroll past this, I need you to stop right here, right now, because what I am about to say to you is not something you stumbled upon by accident. You didn't find this video. God placed it in front of you. And if there is even a small wound inside of you, one that you've been carrying quietly, one that you've never fully talked about, one that shows up at 2 a.m. when the house is silent, and you're lying in the dark thinking about your childhood, about the words that were said, about the hugs that were never given, about the love you desperately needed but somehow never felt, then I need you to stay. Because today, God wants to heal something in you that has been broken for far too long. And it starts with understanding the one person you've been afraid to truly think about, your mother. I want to tell you the story of a young man named Elijah. Not the prophet from the Bible, but a real, flesh and blood kind of young man. The kind you might recognize when you look in the mirror. Elijah grew up in a small house on the edge of a struggling neighborhood. His mother, Miriam, worked 2 jobs, came home tired every single night, smelled like the diner where she waited tables, and barely had energy to say goodnight before she fell asleep on the couch with her shoes still on. Elijah watched her from across the room as a boy, and instead of feeling love, he felt something that took him years to name. He felt invisible. He felt like the house was full of a woman who was always there, and yet somehow, she was never really there at all. By the time Elijah was 17, he had built a wall around his heart so high and so thick that not even light could get through. He was polite to his mother in that cold, surface-level way that hurts more than any argument. The way where you say, okay, and fine, but your eyes are empty and your soul has long since stopped expecting anything warm. He went to church on Sundays because Miriam asked him to, and he sat in the pew with his arms crossed, hearing words about love and forgiveness but feeling none of it because how could a God who says he is love allow a boy to feel so unloved inside his own home? How could a God of healing leave a child feeling so emotionally starved? Elijah didn't have the answers. He only had the pain. And then one Sunday, something happened. The pastor, an old man with a gentle voice and tired eyes, stood at the pulpit and said something that cracked Elijah right open. He said, "Some of you are angry at someone who was also hurting. And God is asking you today to look past the wound they gave you and see the wound they were carrying." Elijah didn't cry right then. He was too proud for that. But something shifted, something loosened just a little bit, like the very first turn of a bolt that's been rusted shut for years. That night he couldn't sleep. He lay in bed, and for the first time in his life, he didn't think about his mother the way he always had, as someone who failed him. He tried, for just a few minutes, to think about who she was before she was his mother. And that's when a thought hit him so hard it took his breath away. He didn't know her story. He had lived in the same house as this woman for 17 years, eaten her food, worn the clothes she bought, slept under the roof she paid for, and he had never once asked her who she was. He had never asked her what she dreamed about as a girl. He had never asked her what broke her. He had never asked her what she was afraid of. He had only ever judged her for what she hadn't given him, without ever understanding what had been taken from her. This is the moment God is trying to bring you to right now. This is the conversation he's been preparing your heart for, maybe for months, maybe for years. Because so many of us, and I mean so many of us, are walking around with open wounds that trace directly back to our relationship with our mothers. Some of you had mothers who were physically absent. Some of you had mothers who were emotionally unavailable. Some of you had mothers who were harsh, critical, demanding, or cold. Some of you had mothers who struggled with addiction. Some of you had mothers who put a man before you. Some of you had mothers who said things to you that a child should never hear, words that attached themselves to your identity like thorns and grew into beliefs that you still haven't been able to uproot. You believe you are not enough. You believe you are not lovable. You believe you have to earn affection. You believe love always comes with conditions, and you have been living inside those beliefs, building your relationships, making your decisions, and wondering why you can never seem to feel fully whole. And it is because of a wound you never healed, from a woman you never truly understood. I am not here today to tell you that your pain isn't real. I am not here to minimize what you went through, or to tell you to simply get over it. What happened to you happened. The tears you cried were real. The loneliness was real. The longing was real. God sees every single one of those moments. He collected every one of your tears. He was there in every silent room, every empty birthday, every cold word, every door that closed without a good night. He was there. And he grieves over every wound that was placed on his child. But he is also asking you today, tenderly, patiently, the way only a father can. He is asking you to go one level deeper. He is asking you to look at your mother not just as the woman who raised you, but as a child who was once broken too. Elijah went to his mother that Monday evening. Miriam was at the kitchen table, a cup of cold coffee in front of her, her eyes staring at nothing, the way tired people do. And Elijah sat down across from her, not because he had everything figured out, not because the anger was gone, but because something had stirred inside him that was stronger than the anger. He looked at her, and he said words that he had never said in 17 years. He said, "Mama, what was your childhood like?" And Miriam looked at him the way someone looks when they've been waiting a long time to be asked a question they never thought anyone would ask. Her eyes filled with tears before she could stop them, and she started to talk. She talked for 2 hours. Elijah sat there and listened as his mother unfolded a life he had never known. She told him about her own mother, a woman who worked and struggled and never said, "I love you," because she didn't know how. Because nobody had said it to her either. She told him about the father who left when she was 6, and how she spent her whole childhood trying to understand what she had done wrong. She told him about the years of feeling worthless, the years of searching for love in places that only took more from her, the years of dreaming of giving her children everything she never had, and the devastating, crushing weight of realizing she was repeating the very patterns she had sworn she would break. She cried. Elijah cried. And somewhere in that kitchen, on an ordinary Monday night, the wall that had taken 17 years to build began, brick by brick, to come down. This is what God does. This is his specialty. He doesn't heal by erasing. He heals by revealing. He takes you to the moment of truth, to the place where you finally see the full picture. And he says, "Now do you understand? Now can you find compassion where there was only judgment? Now can you find love where there was only hurt?" Not because what happened was okay, but because understanding is the doorway that forgiveness walks through. And forgiveness, real forgiveness, the kind that sets your soul free, it cannot come until you understand. You cannot fully release what you don't yet understand. You cannot let go of weight you haven't looked at yet. And God is calling you, right now in this moment, to look. The Bible tells us in Ephesians chapter 6 that we are to honor our father and our mother. And I know that for some of you that verse has felt like a knife rather than a comfort. Because how do you honor someone who hurt you? How do you honor someone who was absent? How do you honor someone who made you feel small? I want to tell you what honoring your mother does not mean. It does not mean pretending the pain didn't happen. It does not mean allowing yourself to be hurt again and again without boundaries. It does not mean stuffing your emotions down and performing a happiness you don't feel. Honoring your mother means choosing to see her humanity. It means choosing, with God's help, to extend to her the same grace that you are desperately asking God to extend to you. Because here's the truth that will change your life if you let it settle into your heart. You are not the only broken one in this story. Everyone who has ever hurt you was first hurt by someone else. The chain of pain goes back further than you can see, and God is asking you, He is choosing you to be the one who breaks it. Elijah didn't fix everything that night in the kitchen. Healing doesn't work like that. It is not a single moment, but 1,000 small choices made over time. But something irreversible happened. He saw his mother as a human being. He saw her as a daughter who had been wounded. He saw her as a woman who had loved him the best way she knew how, with tools that were broken and a heart that was scarred. And that seeing, that simple, holy act of seeing, became the beginning of his freedom. Not just from the pain between them, but from the pain inside him that had been quietly destroying every relationship he tried to build, quietly whispering to him that he was unworthy of love, quietly holding him back from stepping into everything God had designed him to become. Because here is what nobody tells you about unhealed wounds from your mother. They don't stay in the past. They travel with you. They move into your adult relationships and they whisper old lies. They make you flinch at love because love once felt like abandonment. They make you push people away before they can leave. They make you seek approval compulsively because you never got it or you first needed it. They make you afraid of vulnerability because vulnerability once meant pain. The wound you have not healed from your mother is not just a family issue. It is a destiny issue. Because God cannot release you fully into the future He has planned while you are still tethered to the pain of the past. And the tether is not the person who hurt you. The tether is the unforgiveness. The tether is the misunderstanding. The tether is the story you've been telling yourself that has never had enough chapters to be true. God is writing a longer story, a deeper story, a story where the pain was not the point, the transformation was the point, a story where the broken relationship becomes the very altar on which your greatest miracle of healing is placed, a story where the child who felt unseen becomes the adult who chooses to see clearly. A story where the cycle that has run through your family line for generations, that cycle of emotional unavailability, of unspoken love, of inherited wounds, stops. With you, because of you, through the grace of God working in you. Miriam lived for 7 more years after that kitchen conversation, and those 7 years were different. They were not perfect because no mother and child are perfect. There were still hard days, still moments of friction, still old patterns surfacing. But there was also something new between them. There was understanding. There was a tenderness that had not existed before. There were moments where Elijah would catch his mother looking at him with eyes full of something she had always felt but never known how to say. And he understood now that it was love. Imperfect, limited, wounded, human love, but love nonetheless. And when Miriam passed away quietly on a Tuesday morning in spring, Elijah did not stand at her graveside carrying the weight of unfinished business, of things never said, of wounds never acknowledged. He stood there with grief, yes, deep and real grief, but also with peace. The kind of peace that the world cannot give and cannot take away. The peace that comes only from having done the hard, holy work of understanding and forgiving while there was still time. I need to ask you something right now, and I need you to sit with it honestly. Is there still time for you? Is your mother still living? Because if she is, I am telling you with everything in me, do not waste another day. Do not let pride keep the wall standing. Do not let the wound speak louder than the spirit. God has given you today. He has given you this breath, this moment, this video at this exact point in your life. And that is not a coincidence. That is a calling. He is calling you to pick up the phone, to sit across the kitchen table, to ask the question you've never asked, to listen in a way you've never listened. Not because she deserves it perfectly, not because the pain wasn't real, but because you deserve to be free, and your children deserve to receive from you a wholeness you can only find on the other side of forgiveness. And if your mother is no longer here, if she has already passed into eternity, and the chance for that earthly conversation is gone, hear me. God's healing is not limited by death. The conversation you never had, you can have with Him. You can sit with God and tell Him everything, every ache, every longing, every question, everything you wish you had said or heard, and He will meet you there. He will speak to the child inside you who still waits to be seen. He will hold what no human was able to hold, and He will give you the supernatural gift of understanding and releasing what you could not release on your own. Because His grace is not restricted by time or by the walls we live behind. The God who created you knew your mother before you were born. He saw what she carried. He saw what she would give and what she would withhold. He saw the wounds she would pass down and the love she would pour out in imperfect measures. And He still said yes. He still chose to place you in her care. Not because it would be without pain, but because He trusted that you, His chosen one, would eventually come to a moment exactly like this one, where the pain would become a pathway, where the wound would become a window, and where His love would rush in and do what nothing else in this world can do. Make the broken whole, give beauty for ashes, turn mourning into dancing, and transform the most painful chapter of your story into the most powerful testimony of His grace. You are not defined by what was done to you. You are not the sum of what you didn't receive. You are not the product of every wound, every absence, every harsh word, every cold shoulder. You are a child of the Most High God, created with purpose, sealed with promise, held in hands that have never once let you go. Not in the hard years,